DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Against the Boards. Quick segment here before we transition into another segment of me, as we had a bit of a Knighthawks media availability, and I also had a brain fart in my first segment that you're about to see. But I called this the AHL Olympic break. Like, there wasn't an all-star tournament occurring or games occurring that included Isak Rosén, Konsta Helenius, and Zach Jones and all of that. So before I get into my short period talking about the Amerks, shout out to them there and that game, of course, you know, in the AHL All-Star Classic coming up over the weekend. But yeah, so Konsta, Isak, and Zach Jones all going to be in that game. But ultimately, as we get into this one, it'll be me talking about Amerks Sabres rather, in the Olympics, and then getting into a little bit with the kind of PR breakdown with any suspensions and things going on for the Knighthawks. We're going to send it over then to Jake Piseno and Dan Coates and their Knighthawks media availability before we then kick it over to Spencer to break down the last couple of weeks and get us ready for Ottawa coming up on Valentine's Day. That is the slate for the week. And of course, again, congratulations to Konsta Helenius, Isak Rosén, and Zach Jones on their selections to the AHL All-Star team for the North Division. Great season so far, and we'll see how long Konsta and Isak stay in Rochester as the season progresses. But without further ado, pass it over to myself. Here is Against the Boards. But also this episode coming right at a time where we will hit a quick little segment here. Sabres in the Olympics. Only 2 of them to really pay attention to. Tage Thompson playing with Team USA, and of course, Rasmus Dahlin playing with Sweden. But the reason for the time of this episode is when we're done here, switch over to the NBC stream and you will have a USA hockey game coming at you immediately following this episode. And if you know how, I don't know how everyone here watches hockey. I try to mass consume as many games as I can, so I usually not all too worried about the first 5 minutes when I'm watching on TV, unless there's a goal that I missed, and then I'm upset. So I get it. But Thompson playing very soon. I believe it's against Latvia. That game is going to be at 3:30 in the U.S. Of course, February 22nd is the gold medal game, but in the AHL, the Amerks will have a couple of games before that, and they've gotten some reinforcements that were able to come in and play in that 5-1 win over the Utica Comets last weekend. Isak Rosén comes back down to the squad, Konsta Helenius comes back to the squad, and Captain Zach Metza comes back to the squad. Question will be how long they end up remaining with Rochester if injuries kind of sure up in Buffalo. We're not sure how long they will be here, but ultimately fun to have them here now and know that we've got a couple more games with them in the squad as well. As the team does not play this weekend, but will then play next weekend as well. Ultimately for the Amerks, there's not much to talk about. You could see obviously Zach Jones just continuing to have a season, a goal and an assist in that game against Utica last weekend. But I mean, this Amerks squad, when they have full depth that they need, are very good. And when they have the leadership that they need, right? I mean, it's a young core at the end of the day, and it's a team of prospects. But yeah, it's fun to see them fully fitted out a little bit more. When those 3 get sent down, it's like putting on Infinity Stones and continuing to play the game. I'm not saying the Amerks are going to fill a gauntlet at any point this season. I'm just saying we all know Thanos was pretty strong when he had 3 of those things on his hand. So definitely a chance there for opportunity. Shout out to Channel 8. Gotta give it the t-shirt with Devin Levi, Rochester resident, that they gave to him was absolutely hilarious. We talked about that, of course, last week with two Sabres in media coming on Spectrum News in Buffalo as well, but that one went a little bit more under the radar with it being more so breaking news in Rochester that was going on. But yeah, ultimately that is kind of the picture painted for the Amerks as we come into a weekend of only Knighthawks in Rochester. And speaking of, there's a little bit of PR stuff to kind of touch base on from the last couple of weeks. Things have gotten a little insane, you could say. Definitely interesting is the easiest way to probably put it. But let's just lay out some of the facts for everyone so that they can kind of ultimately understand the state of everything right now. Ultimately, from the NLL and announcements right now, there's nothing stating where the appeal process is on Hartley. That will likely come out later tonight. And by then, we will know for certain whether or not he has to serve that one-game suspension, how it all goes there, and everything with that. Once that is put out, then there is Riley Hutchcraft and Cam McLeod on the total roster of the Knighthawks ready to go for that situation. Also, along with that, we have the fact that Tyler Biles and Jackson Subak fought before the game on Saturday in Vancouver. Because of that, the rule that takes place is any fight with outside of the confines of the 60 minutes of the game or not on the floor is subject to a one-match penalty, so that will be served immediately in this Ottawa game. So now, with that kind of set up, you look at the squad, ultimately the two scratches last time were Nathan Kapp and Adam Thistlethwaite. So ultimately, with Biles popping out for one game, one of them will have to come back into that spot, and it's not like the squad does not have the depth, essentially, to fill that for a one-game situation. So there is kind of the layout of things with suspensions and penalties and how things kind of reign. And I'll also take this opportunity to shout out only one player in the NLL has 7.5 points per game and has played in all 8 games that their team has played in this season, and that is Connor Fields. And that includes a game where he went 1-3 in a game where the team only scored 6 goals against the Vancouver Warriors at home. The MVP is still doing MVP type things, and you absolutely have to love to see it. He's been so consistent this year. And got to give the shout out to Ryan Lanchbury, who continues in the top 5 in the NLL in assists right now, and it's quiet every time he does it. If you don't search and dig a stat sheet, you won't find it, but it's 2 goals, 7 assists, again, matching that San Diego stat line that he had early on in the season. He's really putting a year together. Last thing before I sign off and pass it off to Spencer for everything here, 19 shots allowed on goal in the last 35 minutes against the Vancouver Warriors. That is what the Knighthawks defense allowed last week in Vancouver. Just a number to let everyone sit with before I pass everything off to Spencer. Big thanks to my producer, Paul Russo, for getting us up and running. And without further ado, here's the rest of Against the Boards.
Go to you. Just looking at the way those 2 games were, obviously both losses, but very different from one another before you come back into this week. Just what kind of progress, I guess, did you see from those 2 games and coming back from Vancouver?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a tough one at home. I liked their game a lot better in Vancouver. Didn't have the best second quarter there, but I thought our second half there, third and fourth quarter, were some of the best lacrosse we played all year, defensively and offensively too. I just like how we responded. That's a good team over there, but at the end of the day, like, we took a lot of positives from that too. Now, our record is what it is, and we know that we have to be process-oriented. You know, the results were 0-2 over those 2 games, but there are some good things that we did, and we got to take that and move on to Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, Jake, that the defense can obviously do to help the offense, aside from, getting off the floor and everything, is scoring 14 seconds into a game. It's a pretty big, fun way to get things started. Just when you go through that moment specifically, and for you as a guy who pushes transition, just how big is it when you have, obviously, the dominant offense you do, but those goals still have a major impact?
Yeah, I mean, they help a lot. I think it helps with putting their defense on their heels, and that gives our offense a little bit more leeway to do what they do. But especially in that game, with us coming off of that loss at home, starting the game that way, I think that was huge. But it could be anybody at any given night with our defense. I think everyone pushes transition hard, and everyone wants to score. So I think that either way, it's happening. It's a good thing for us. So
yeah, definitely. When it comes to that scoring aspect of things, one of the things you talked about that second half, only allowing 3 goals, 19 shots on goal in the last 35 minutes of that game from Vancouver. Coatsy, you talked about it being some of the best lacrosse that you guys have played. How do you repeat that type of a performance, that stopping shots on goal?
Defensively?
Yeah,
defensively. I think we just kind of made some minor adjustments, and it wasn't too much, but it seemed like it kind of fit the identity of who we are in the back end a little more. It allowed to give up shots that our goalies wanted to see, and just kind of hearing from Hutchie and Hartz that's kind of where they wanted to see it from. So it makes their job a lot easier. But I think for us, it's like we got to be more physical. We got to prevent those guys getting to the middle of the floor. But all in all, I think it's just, it's not just the vets, it's the first, second year guys, third year guys having some leadership too, and taking upon themselves that this is their defense just as much as, a vet. So I think going into this week, obviously we're going to see a really good talented player in Jeff Teat. So going to make some minor adjustments that way. But for us, I think it's just keeping it simple. Keep guys to the outside and be physical.
Yeah, definitely. This question kind of goes to both of you, honestly, but Jake, I'll start with you. I mean, between you and Jensen, so far this season, you're the defenseman that kind of go for matchups at different times. For you, it was Brendan O'Neill against Philly. For Jensen, it was Keegan Ball last week. Just kind of what does that do for you as only in your second year, knowing that you have those big-time matchups and the team trusts you in those senses?
It definitely instills confidence, both from the coaching staff down to us, but also in our teammates. It also puts us in an advantage to play our game and not let our teammates down. I think that goes for both of us. We talk a lot on and off the field, in the floor, and I think that both of us we want those matchups, and I think that's why we get them, is because we want them. We want to make sure that we don't let our teammates down, we don't let our coaches down in making that decision. So it's fun and it instills confidence in us, and that's what we want.
Yeah, definitely. Coates, you kind of go off of that. One of the things Jens talked about earlier today was having so many different roles of guys on the defensive end of the floor. When you have those guys that can match feet that are on the younger end, and you have the voices of the veterans in the room, just kind of, how does it kind of all work together? Is it key to have those younger guys in those positions to match feet?
Yeah, 100%. You don't want a bunch of guys who are basically all the same. You want a good blend of guys. Obviously, Jake and Jensen are super athletic, great feet. And I think just knowing these two guys too, they respond well to the challenge, and the coaches give them assignment, and they seem to thrive on that. And then you need other guys who are more physical, some guys more stay at home, guys with great active sticks off ball. Yeah, you kind of want a good blend at the end of the day. But yeah, it seems like with the makeup of our D, we have that.
Definitely. Last thing, Jake, question from the media. At this point in the season for you, you've now played the same number of games this year that you did last year, and the stats are a completely different story. Just how has another year in the NLL been for you, and how you feel you've improved?
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable now. I think everything that I was taught last year and continue to be taught this year, and learning from guys like Coatsy and Gillies and Gilray and Reeser and Lordy, Tutsy, like all those guys in the D end and the coaches, they, like I said with the last question, they instill confidence in me, and they allow me to play my game, and they've helped me out along the way. So I think now it's just continuing to learn and continuing to be better with the things that I'm getting taught. So I think that obviously the stats are a lot different, but the stats are stats at the end of the day. I really just want to do what I need to do on the floor for my teammates and allow us to get the W at the end of the day. So
this is how the National Lacrosse League rolls.
Blow the whistle. Let's play some lacrosse as Knighthawks in white, Warriors in black. And the rematch of the home and home underway. And Rochester with the early chance, and in it goes in transition. Knighthawks score on the first shot of the game right off the face-off.
The Rochester Knighthawks are coming off a 16-15 defeat in Vancouver last Saturday night. Truly a wild one start to finish. It started off with a fight pregame between Tyler Biles and Jackson Subach with a big-time heavyweight brawl prior to the game even starting in this one. But for the Knighthawks, the action started right away. 14 seconds into the game, Jake Piseno with another transition goal right off the faceoff that Jeremy Thompson won. He won it right to Taylor Jensen, who fired it up the field to Jake Piseno, who was streaking down the field, and he buried it on the first shot of the game. Rochester would then go on to score 4 out of the next 6 goals of the first quarter to give themselves a 5-2 lead. However, after that point, Vancouver went on a tear, scoring 5 straight to end the quarter, and then the first 2 in the second. Out of absolutely nowhere, it was all of a sudden 9-5 Warriors. Connor Fields and Graydon Hogg, who was in the lineup on Saturday after Brad McCulley was placed on IR, had the 2 goals for the Knighthawks in the second quarter. At halftime, it was a 6-goal lead for the Warriors, a big-time deficit for this Knighthawks team. Early on in the third quarter, the Knighthawks started to get some momentum, scoring 2 goals in the first minute of the third quarter. First one came from Connor Fields, and then it was a certified Ryan Smith moment to give the Knighthawks their 9th goal of the game to really get themselves back in this one. Keegan Ball buried one to give the Warriors a 5-goal lead back, and then Ryan Smith with another one to trim it to 4, but Shane Simpson in transition buried one to make it 15-10 going into the fourth quarter. The Knighthawks really turned it on in the fourth quarter, showed incredible resilience and grit. Fields and Lanchbury had the first 2, then Keegan Ball with another one to make it 16-12. That one felt like the dagger, and it was, as the ball just trickled by Hutchcraft. Definitely one he's going to want back. But then the Knighthawks scored the final 3 goals of the game. Connor Fields made it a 1-goal game with 1:50 left, and the Knighthawks just could not find the equalizer within that last over 100 seconds there at the end of the game. Within the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about Ryan Smith having a Ryan Smith-type game. That was this weekend. He had 3 goals and 2 assists for 5 points, but even more importantly, those 3 goals only came on 6 shots. So that is a 50% shooting percentage, which is massive for him and his confidence. It was talked about on the broadcast how Connor Fields was not at the morning shoot-around for the Knighthawks, as he and his wife are expecting their 2nd child. But that did not matter. He came out like a missile in this one. A 10-point night for the reigning MVP, proving why he is, again, one of the best players in the NLL. Talked about Graydon Hogg, a little bit earlier. He had 2 goals in this one. Obviously, he is in the lineup now with Brad McCulley back on the injured reserve list. Someone who doesn't get talked about enough is Ryan Lanchbury. He had 9 points in this one. Another guy that had a 50% shooting percentage. He had 2 goals on 4 shots. He continues to show why he is one of the most important guys in the NL when it comes to feeding the shooters. Most importantly, Rylan Hartley did start in this game. The appeal went through, and he played in this one, but it wasn't his best outing. He struggled seeing the ball early on. He had 16 saves and 11 goals against. Probably up there with the performance against the Mammoth. Just didn't really have a night for him. Defense wasn't as aggressive. They defensively became a lot more aggressive in the second half with Riley Hutchcraft in net. This was the second and final matchup with the Warriors this season, so the Knighthawks will not have to play Vancouver the rest of the way, at least in the regular season. I can 100% say that this is definitely a possible playoff matchup we could be seeing down the road once we get to April and May. Someone I do want to highlight is number 74, Jeremy Thompson. He had a very good game. The team overall was 23 out of 35. He did have a 5-minute penalty, so he did not take every single faceoff. But as a team, this is by far their best performance at the faceoff dot. The Knighthawks, as a team, went 50% on the power play, 2 for 4. But on the other side, Vancouver went 5 for 7. The Warriors definitely took advantage of the Rochester mistakes in the box by putting up goals on the score sheet, and that, at the end of the day, that was the difference in this one. Now we're going to go look back at every Week 11 game. First one was Ottawa hosting the Calgary Roughnecks. This one was a little bit closer than I anticipated. Black Bears winning it 11-9 in the end. Next one, the Toronto Rock hosted the Oshawa Firewolves, and a little bit of a Toronto rivalry that is building in Ontario. The Rock took this one 12-10 on the back of another big night from the rookie studs between C.J. Kirst, Owen Hiltz, and Sam English. Next one, we're going to have to get a reservation for Upset City as the Philadelphia Wings went into Buffalo and defeated the Buffalo Bandits 13-11. Buffalo is falling off a cliff lately. They've now lost 4 games in a row and are now sitting at 3-5 in the standings. Other than the Knighthawks games, the final 2 games, first one, Georgia defeated the Las Vegas Desert Dogs. The Dogs were without Chase Frazier in this one, but I don't think it really mattered. Brett Dobson continues to be an absolute wall in Georgia as Swarm took this one 12-9. Last one was another 12-9 score in favor of the Rush as they took down the Seals in San Diego. Now this week coming up, the Knighthawks are finally back at home at the Blue Cross Arena as they'll be taking on the Ottawa Black Bears. You're going to have to cancel your Valentine's Day dinner for this one, as this is going to be a big matchup in the NLL when you look at the standings overall. The Black Bears are 5-5, the Knighthawks are 4-4, both teams sitting at 500. Ottawa has played 2 extra games, so the Knighthawks have 2 games in hand for now, but this is a big one when you look at the playoff picture. This is the first and only meeting between these 2 teams this season, as Knighthawks will not travel to Ottawa. The Black Bears are led by arguably the best lacrosse player in the world, number 51, Jeff Teat. He has 28 goals and 45 assists in 10 games, averaging 7.3 points per outing. Unreal. And after that, it doesn't get much better. Rob Hellier, who was acquired, I believe, from I think it was San Diego in the offseason. 20 goals, 38 assists for 58 points, 5.8 per contest. He has been very good for this Black Bears team. So far this season, it has been the Zach Higgins show. In my opinion, he is one of the more underrated goalies this season. He has a 75.7 save percentage and the 5-5 record that the Black Bears team also has. The Black Bears are 2-2 away from Canadian Tire. Ottawa's GM and head coach is Dan McRae, a former NLL player himself. Next up, we're going to go ahead and look at Week 12 in the NLL. Gets kicked off Friday night. Las Vegas is hosting Colorado in Vegas. Colorado has been an absolute tear lately. I expect them to continue that and lead to a mammoth win in Sin City. Saturday gets kick-started with the Buffalo Bandits heading way north to Halifax to take on the Thunderbirds. Coming into the season, this is not a do-or-die matchup that it is now turning into, with both teams sitting at 3-5 and fighting for their postseason lives this early in the season. Buffalo has been a train wreck lately, and Halifax hasn't been much better, to be completely honest. I do think in the end Halifax will take this one at home. San Diego is headed east to take on the Oshawa Firewolves in Oshawa. This is an intriguing matchup. San Diego has been able to put together some wins over the last couple weeks, minus last week against Saskatchewan, but Oshawa has continued to struggle. They have played now 10 games this season and have only won 2. Every game this point on has to be a win if Oshawa even wants to talk about making the playoffs. Next up, the Team Knighthawks have recently played twice. The Vancouver Warriors are headed to Saskatoon to take on the Saskatchewan Rush. This is going to be a big-time matchup. Two of the best teams in the NLL going at it. I think Saskatchewan will take this one at home. Next up, we have Philadelphia heading out west to take on the Calgary Roughnecks. Philadelphia put it together last week, and I expect them to get another win this time out west in Calgary. Colorado's got a little doubleheader action this weekend, as on Saturday night the Toronto Rock will be headed out to Denver to take on the Mammoth. I think Colorado will dominate this one again. Dylan Ward paired off with Jack Hanna and the rest of the offense has been unreal for the Mammoth, as they are one of the hottest teams in the NLL, and I expect that to continue this weekend with them picking up 2 more wins. The Calgary Roughnecks are also on a doubleheader, as on Sunday they will host the Georgia Swarm with Brett Dobson coming to the Saddledome in Calgary. I think Georgia will take this one. Brett Dobson has been unbelievable this season, and the Georgia Swarms are one of those feel-good stories in all of sports right now, as they have been dominant with that young rookie core led by Nolan Byrne. The Knighthawks, again, will be at home this Saturday night against the Ottawa Black Bears in a pivotal game in Week 12 of the NLL season. Forget the Valentine's Day dinner. Get yourself to the Blue Cross Arena on Saturday night. It's going to be a fun one. This has been another episode of Against the Boards.
We'll throw that out near center as Ryan Lanchberry. Rochester back in front 2-1. And back in possession here was Zed Williams. Way too much room. That's closed off quickly there by Simpson, who took a bit of an awkward fall in warm-up, but a quick pass down low for Hogg, and here's Lanchberry off the wall. Darts low, got a step, flip it high. Smith turned low, fire, scores. Ryan Smith picks the corner, and the Knighthawks off to a red-hot start here, leading 4-1.